Hello, the species value nature system. Each modern nation branches, that means all the agencies together, can be recorded, aware that they're unaware of the extent and of defense of needs to lie and need to cover lies in relationship to each other, which they don't understand. In relationship to them defending factors, treatment styles with physical delusions related to what, and worse, with original state method to the criminal to invest from a propagated base and method for it, lie progressions and styles only realized as odds to that, as agencies, as each branch of government independently, in the position, the three-part position of the president-chief, never let not breached originally stayed, fact, treatment, natures. And then justifications of roles with that requires lie progression cover-ups. And the extent of that is in relationship to police forms and investigations of the nature of the whole thing, which is being maintained progressively, only let realized as roles, with what really made the negative value nature progressions. A method of extortion of fact treatment natures that really is the reason our states still owe money, have deficits, recessions, depressions, and worse, to fear. All modern nations together, distinctly and together, in a deferential torture method, that which is in relationship to a fact treatment trick. So, in other words, FBI could never, he can't have the capacity to understand what, to play. That's illegal to play those kind of games with the president and trying to probe into how he's going to adapt where there's no way to talk truth, but that's forced to pretend that you're talking truth at a top-down level with the president. That's why I can't defend the chief rights, which is truth itself, which is the Constitution abridged, not unabridged. Right now it's abridged because we have fact treatment. There's no justification for the media with their with their networks, but in relationship, they're victims. If they want to do it that way, or they could be, how it already is the nature of criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police form, I'm not a criminal, I'm English. And we're going to show truth and the identity of the sciences that they share. So each person with ratiocination could demonstrate and understand how originally in state our value nature system, we're all ulterior. And with this, we're going to realize this is the only common way to pray and to be correct is to understand with thoughts, with treatments of facts, that there's only one overall system. There's only one overall system to our body. Each body of value within our body, each cell, each organ, each system has the greater system, which is why identity is to be understood. Because the greater system is all lesser than identity. And what is identity? It is a system in relationship to itself, which is the nature of positive or negative. English is a correlation. Not only English, everything is a correlation nature. Energy is a correlation nature. Energy is a correlation nature in relationship to the identity of energy. Space is identity, is the inherent, active, and progressive cause of energy, and of its correlation by itself. As value here in a unique immediate space in relationship to the rest of space. And when that value is not stay inherently, actively, and progressively valued to itself here at the same time, temporary identities of what is in diffusion here, not only through us, ourselves, but through itself. Identity is a nature that is a value unto itself, and that's its nature, which is positive or negative. And there is only neutrality to a system that is progressively positive or progressively negative, because that's how the system works of the Campus Martius, which is the system of space. It's not to a nation, and it's not to, definitely not to pseudo-nations with criminally legalized ulterior from overall system. And because it's been criminally, this is why not only criminal, ancient revelations were not the only thing criminally re-engineered. Actually, the nature of campus was criminally engineered. The nature of people with areas was criminally re-engineered. Before that, and then with that, and then to other horizontal layers, into other vertical ones. And English is revealed to teach all sciences as identity of them. And we'll reveal this. Which is about correlation, which is about an active form of correlation, which is ratiocination. Ratiocination. This is pantheism. And to teach about this with science, not before the Quran, before criminal persuasions, criminal re-engineering of ancient revelations, internation sciences revealed English together. And internation sciences were of and as a nature that humanity never thought that everyone would lose understanding of, because understanding it and using it the proper way demonstrates positive value nature progressions, called evolution. Now, each of the sciences were categorically, they were made fit with physical delusions, with fact treatment roles, needing justification, requiring styles of fact treatments reliant upon lies, delusions, needing to hide delusion, needing to hide premises, needing to hide internation criminal persuasions. Excuse me, needing to hide interstate ones with it, or juxtaposed with that, and juxtaposed with interagency natures and identities, and interpolice forms and private ones juxtaposed with original state database relationships, ulterior database relationships, uncharged, in relationship to a nature of criminal insidiousness. Again, I'm not a lawyer. In relationship to a nature of criminal insidiousness that is imposition to the truth and to the surface values of the Constitution defended together simultaneously, which ratiocination is the manifest of, when that is going correctly. And when it is not, pseudo-ratiocination, de-evolution demonstrates it, because there's only one overall system. So even with our thoughts, when we think about what we're going to protract, if we're not thinking about what is going to be overall positive to overall system with no criminal persuasions, not one persuasions, them even acts, because that's a criminal insidiousness nature that is roles and function, then justifying that, especially with titles, that's why we have expert lien that was engineered by a breaching method, worse than expert lien. In other words, entrenched in America, already have well-practiced internation sciences already with the area before our founders' births. So with President Trump is a problem, because the news is not letting him have the sequence nature truth, and they're involved with the area's original state, a method of having them only realize that they need to cover their own nature as liars and as breaching nature in relationship to fact treatments, only let realized, with breach precedents and with uncharged. We have victim branches because the victim internation science is only let after and in conjunction with area organized crime first against the Native Americans. See, we don't have agencies that are capable with truth enough to be capable enough to justify being they're only experts on the predatory litigation nature's voice, not truths, not the sequence nature. And so all is abridged. It was their obligation to explain the breaching organized crime, and that requires them explaining how it was using our fact treatment natures with tricks like where everyone was slave by their laws, and how they made color only let realized remembered. See, a minority of internation people from each, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from America, they were cultivated to roles with what denature human education, to a common denatured, roles justifying it denatured, but not understanding why, already too, having roles only let realized with the areas tactically progressed from an original before our nations, before our founders' birth, entrenched in America, and what is now Connecticut, what is now Boston, all the way down, entrenched by the surface nations games, where they're all made populations bigger than themselves, all to keep the leaders' extorted fact treatment natures, roles abridging free speech and means. A recession at this point, debt at this point for a state, is worse than extortion. It's full function to a breaching method, and so those sloppy fact treatments that expect the president, he's supposed to just those aren't even real. That's not nature. That's not truth. The feelings aren't truth. It's not truth attached to lies. In other words, it's not a truth that can be built on, that you can discern is true always. And then so the FBI director, after the other FBI director, see, if he has worse than criminal incompetence, if he does not know and understand and hasn't been told, because it's recorded, and the former FBI director, Robert Luskin, he also had all kinds of natures of crime tied to federal criminals associated with him, with evidence crimes, with all kinds of police forms leading up to, in the context of 9/11 and since, and worse than interstate. And this is with the nature and the relationship of medical corruption tied to courts, covering up the only let realized lie progression, cover up needs as state natures by pretending with frustrated reactions in relationship to breached precedents that had them already entertaining, sticking, looking the other way, and having roles with people with titles, setting people up still with courts, making through time, keeping only let realized criminally influenced branches, areas down from towns to states to federal, only let that realized lie progression cover up styles, because a fact treatment nature is what speaks. The independent clause speaks. The subordinated clause does not. And as a nature that wants it all independent, no matter what, made independent bottom overall up. It wants that put before bottom up. We see, so when we see Hartford, Connecticut, where really are they in positions with the city, we're going to take private means to come, once we have everyone privately taken care of with the new natures of business, this creates new fact treatment natures. In other words, the nature of jobs isn't so, we have too many predatory ones against people with no jobs too, and they have more credibility than the people with the titles. This is serious because too, everyone's odds to it. In other words, everyone's rolls with it because it's a nature of to counter criminal insidiousness and to explain it, and especially in relationship to what's not let explained because of the forced glorification of our forced extorted fact treatment natures and fact treatments of our founders, even in letters. We have these proofs, and we have worse than so. It's see, we don't have them ready to we don't have them ready to admit anyone capable of leading us. They only have people capable of needing to be able to be go through systems that if you want to it and you know, in other words, all these places we have there people on this. Before America was made, this was entrenched here. So nothing about the foundation of our country, like underground and stuff like that, was put there a long time ago, was not realized. It was already attached to ulterior database relationships. So we have things like that with the relationship to the relationship to each other that the Mark Twain house and that the Harriet Beecher Stowe house has, and the relationship to the context of him putting the story with the Jim the slave guy on the raft on the Mississippi River that goes south, and he's going north. Also in relationship right next to him, they're touching each other. It's obfuscated on the maps online. The Harriet Beecher Stowe house came with the concept of Uncle Tom. And this is also at the same time, because this is against correlation, multi-front with the same people and with different people at the same time. Telling, so to break down free speech, to break down fact treatment, to keep it's a method of keeping everything blamed on other, which are to covering the lie progressions of what the internation organized crime needs to tell. The breaching method, the archetypal organized crime, a devil. That's the most logical thing to teach and decipher. The cipher, and so we'll demonstrate this. Cipher is in relationship to the alpha and the omega, which is about a correlation nature, polarity nature, as a nature that is in relationship to a positive and negative value nature relationship to itself, inherently, actively, and progressively. The active part of this is life, but it's also the inherent part. It's also a progressive part, because the inherent part stays progressive by the progressive part. The part that's active now is correlated by its inherent relationship to itself that will only stay positively progressive. So we're temporary. And that's what, in other words, with immediate space nature. So immediate space nature is a positive value to itself that positive has that won't change. So when we change it, because we have especially criminally legalized criminal persuasions, in fact, cheap nature justifications of that, the overall system, the overall nature will demonstrate. So we must be the overall nature. We must be the identity of space. We must be what positive to it, to its identity. And Allah's name was revealed to teach us with English, with yin yang. Yin yang is painting the unchanging nature that positive has in relationship to itself. Internation sciences revealed English before England, and with Latin and with Arabic. See, Latin now they have like habeas corpus laws, habeas certiorari, things like that. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but they have it. You can sue from outside of court, even as a plaintiff. You don't have to be in prison to do that. You could do it as a plaintiff because there's criminals associated with the law, like federal criminals associated with labor racketeering. But it's also they're recorded with worse than that, in conjunction with 9/11 crimes and with roles leading up to them, using campuses, using natures of child abuse originally and stayed, consciously connected to natures of crime uncharged originally and stayed with elderly homes and with our means. Again, this is why, in other words, this is why we have recessions, owe money. It's impossible after all this time. We're still in colonization's homes. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, they didn't even have cars when they built these homes. And that's another thing tied to the pathology and the fact treatment or breaching method. With the term, in other words, with the nature of those people, with the psyche, they want to call it a psyche. It's breaching roles with the fact treatments, and there's no excuse for it. And not one chief has led a voice. That means the surface value nature of the Constitution is not led a voice, and you can't address what criminal insidiousness is with that originally and stayed, in understanding it and teaching about it, which is obligated to us every day, and entertain the fact treatment natures of the media and the business of every business, especially in other words, that's a weapon. Even especially like jails and stuff like that. I'm not a criminal, but I was put in jail when I was trying to report recorded crimes with the kids, proven, but recorded, but further recorded than they can even admit, because it's in relationship to natures of crime, again, that were originally in our state actively recorded. So we're going to deal with this in Wethersfield, because Wethersfield's inter-system involved with this. Not just with the town, but the interconnected parts of the town with the police equipment and with other cities, police departments, and natures personally invested to personal lie progression cover-up needs in the various departments together, and with other agencies personally invested to personal misprision and top-down lie progression cover-up needs and roles in relationship to original state terror database relationships, unrealized, and terror fact treatment evidences rackets, unrealized, and evidences roles. In other words, in relationship to witness fabrications, that even the witness aren't even realized the extent of it. Just their own personal misprision and top-down natures also recorded, but they have to hide that by pretending others. And everyone's leaning on styles, blaming it other for all different reasons. And then with the psychology roles, delusion propagating, all kinds of evidence rackets, database rackets, medical evidence fabrication, all kinds of stuff. That's all tied to the areas too. And so these people want to deal with their colleagues in relationship to having to go, everyone's spot is measured. In other words, so there's like a level of torture on our real doctors, but it's also connected to the campuses, and everyone's a reaction nature wanting to have a conversation like that's just, like everything's natural, between our natures, but everything's genetic and things like that, physical delusions. In other words, it also tampering with, making it, when there are exceptions, they're looking at how to hurt with like, there's a breaching that these people, this is not like, in other words too, there's these even proofs even with the text that the reason there's such a problem with the text has nothing to do with, like, in other words, there's people putting that, not making a whole bunch of different problems because they need us to stay roles by what can control our fact treatment natures. In other words, perpetually ill and progressively blaming our other and covering that up. So those are progressively natures that can't take police reports and can't take facts in sequence. So they keep, and what that does too is just keeps investing the media to multi-front needs to cover personal, top-down, and misbridging lie progressions and roles, juxtaposed with agencies only let realize breaching roles against as multi-front fake support for presidents they're supposed to work for, and with the other branches, all breached, all incapable of defending their fact treatment natures as trained to do it, and to teach about criminal insidiousness in relationship to this at the same time, which is to all areas, not just all towns, and intercity, and interstate, and internation. So President Trump needs what all chiefs need is the truth defended, which is a sequence nature. So when people make reports, it's recorded that they're making up. They have delusions. The FBI and other agencies recorded too. They pretended I talked about the CIA. The same doctors that recorded that pretended that because they were blocking me from making a police report. They forced me into a hospital with no charges, which is against the Constitution. See, but we have trick fact treatment natures, and they're also recorded. Before I saw those people, they were already recorded and involved with all kinds of natures of crime with the areas, and had nothing to do with them telling the right to lie and pretending to establish undercover identities by committing crimes to make it look like they're. These are evidences crimes with with cases, categorically, and through time, including 9/11 ones. They even recorded themselves with crimes with Frankie Reese on 9/11 themes, tied to the correctional